Hey cats, it's Ed like a Hurricane Bud here. Today with a review of a new shoe from Saucony for you. This is the Hurricane 25. I think it's aimed at being like a daily use model. It's got quite a beautiful midsole feel, I have to say. Soft yet forgiving. Let's take a closer look. Thanks for tuning in, people. If you've been enjoying the content but you're yet to subscribe, please do so down below. Also give this video a thumbs up, like, and drop us a comment for that algorithm. Dankeschön. The Saucony Hurricane 25 here. This is a shoe that the brand have sent over to me for review. They're not paying me to make this video, nor will they get to vet my views before my valued viewers get to see them. Alright, quite a big weight drop here in this shoe over the last model. I've got 329 grams for my UK 11. That's about 11.6 ounces. In the 24, I had 357 grams or 12.6 ounces, so an ounce lower. Always good in my book. I got about 13.3 centimeters up front, a very wide base here, and 10.8 centimeters in the heel. There are a couple of different foams in use within the Hurricane 25. There's like a frame on the lower section of the midsole, which is made of PWRRUN, and then on top of that, and kind of in the middle, I suppose, is PWRRUN PB. That's coming in at about Shore A 20, with the frame coming in about 30, so it's not actually that rigid. And the reliable rubber on the outsole here coming in at Shore A 70, which is a bit on the sort of denser side, I suppose. I've got 41 millimeters of stack height here in the heel, so that's about 3 millimeters on from the sample size. That's typically what I get. Bigger shoe, bigger stack, okay, and about 35 millimeters up front, so you've got like a 6 mil drop. You certainly feel that on foot as well. It keeps out of the way your stride somewhat. I'm finding the upper on the 25 a little bit more breathable than last year's model. It was quite thick actually, but it's still quite plush in the heel area. There's quite a considerable counter here. This is like a light stability shoe, though it's not one of these, you know, avert ones that really control the way you run. I found it really smooth out there. There is gusseting on either side of the tongue, but it's not a booty construction by any stretch. There's a few overlays and structural add-ons here. Certainly around the toe box there's quite a bit of structure here with some reinforcements that keep that upper material away from your toes. It does feel a lot more lightweight, and I think the upper materials are quite a bit down to that sort of 1 ounce lower weight. I would go true to size on this one. No need to go up an extra half or anything. It's a nice roomy fit without being too generous if you've got a normal width foot, though I think perhaps if you have a narrower foot like me, you'll end up cinching the laces in quite a bit, and then of course the lace length is a bit out of whack. I'm not the biggest fan of these sort of rope-like laces. They're quite stretchy, quite flexible. They work okay in this shoe and the lockdown's decent, but I do find myself cinching them in quite a bit, and they do soak up quite a lot of moisture as well in a wetter run recently. Remember, this isn't like a race upper. It's not as bulky perhaps and as unwieldy as the last one. It certainly feels like Saucony have made a fair few efforts to try and make it a bit more nimble and kind of enjoyable on foot. There's a pull tab back here, not really necessary for this. Easy to get into if you untie and then retie your laces, right? So it doesn't really feel like this is a avert stability shoe from the upper perspective. It's not like they're sort of forcing it down your throat. So overall good middle ground here in the upper. It's not too overblown. Some of these max cushion models these days are just too plush, and this feels just about right. I'll give it a 2.6 out of 3 for the upper. Not the biggest fan of the laces or the colourway, perhaps too wide and spacious for some narrow-footed runners. Midsole, midsole. Midsole now. So the midsole benefits hugely here from that power frame, PWRRUN material. It's certainly a little bit softer than I remember it to be, a tiny bit firmer from the average Shore A durometer score that we get on the channel, which is about 28. The PWRRUN PB stuff here though is really soft. It's very, very squashy, I suppose, to a certain point, but there's some resilience there and consistency as well underfoot. I find the ride superb for like easy or recovery paces. I felt really laborious this morning. Got up and managed to get out in these, and within about a kilometre felt great. Lovely compression underfoot. I think the PWRRUN frame here is the perfect carrier for the softer PWRRUN PB. Now the stack itself, I mean, I've got 41 millimeters here. That's more than enough for most people, but with the weight coming in over an ounce lower than the last version, I think Saucony really have listened to everybody's requests here on this shoe. Just makes it a little bit more nimble than some of the other max cushion monsters. Better drop for me as well than the Triumph model. That one's just too high. The 6mm here is absolutely ideal for me. Just sort of stays out the way of my stride a little bit, and at easier paces makes for a nice smooth feel. The centre path feature is this built up medial arch area, though it's still made of the same foam, so we don't get that rigid or very hard section that some stability models rely on. So don't think for a second that this is like an overt stability shoe. It's very subtle. Almost feels like the frame's there to like stabilise the foam a little bit rather than actually stabilising the runner's foot strike. Certainly a shoe though designed for sort of daily or easier efforts, but I think they're light enough to do a longer run in as well, and without it getting too heavy on foot later in that sort of longer distance effort. For those of you that are interested, the insole that comes with this one is actually quite thick in the forefoot. I think there's about 4mm. Seems to provide a little bit of the cushioning here to improve the squash. So a more attractive midsole package here this time round in the Hurricane 25, especially when you've got like the similar priced Vomero Plus coming very soon. I think Nike are sort of levering the extra stack there in that shoe, but I mean this one's going to be more than enough for most people if you don't want to shell out for the Vomero Plus. I'll give it a 2.7 out of 3 for the midsole so far. More fun on foot now and lighter feel, nice smooth midsole, but don't expect mega squash, it's no race shoe, okay? Outsole wise, the Hurricane has been given quite a bit of this tough rubber this time. There's actually quite a lot of it across the whole of the outsole, concentrated in like sort of 3 areas. This part stretches right up through the mid and forefoot, and then there's 2 areas in the heel. Some really good coverage. Just makes the model a little bit more versatile. Perhaps if you're running on some lighter trails, on some gravel, then you won't get any issues here. Some really great grip. Yeah, it's a heat wave in the UK at the moment, but we all know that that'll end at some point, and I think the extra ridges and the traction that you've got here could be really beneficial come the winter. You can just navigate a little bit more terrain other than just road and pavement. Yes, you do have some of that exposed PWRRUN PB here, but it almost acts a little bit like the Nova Blast, I suppose, that sort of trampoline type effect. In fact, the design is quite similar. Got the Super Blast here from Asics, and you can see that the designs are very, very similar there. Maybe Saucony could like hollow out a bit of this in the future, give us a bit more of that sort of trampoline type feel. Certainly a more beefy outsole here than the Triumph I recently reviewed from Saucony. Lots more rubber here, but amazingly isn't adding all that much weight. Just found the drop in that shoe not really all that beneficial to me, and it still wasn't that great in wet weather. So yeah, this one certainly takes the crown over the Triumph this time around. Did measure the lugs here, and you've got about 4 to 5mm. I mean, that's more than you get on some trail shoes, so the rubber's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. I'll give it a 2.7 out of 3 for the outsole so far. You could say there's perhaps even too much rubber here. Value wise, I think Saucony have got this pretty spot on. They've certainly improved it over the last version. I think it's a bit of an underrated shoe really. I did enjoy the last version of the Hurricane, but this is like a big improvement in every single area of the shoe. Quality control is on point. There's no dodgy stitching or sort of glue marks anywhere. I think the only real detractor from this is still the weight. It's still that much more than like the Endorphin Speed 5. If you're a lighter weight runner, ultimately you might just want a nice light and simple shoe to utilize. There's a little bit more to this one, so I think I'd probably still advise those heavier built runners that this is a good option. I think it's a lovely cushioned ride. Perhaps if you're also wanting to buy a shoe that does a lot of things, maybe you do a lot of walking or something, or you're on your feet all the time, the Hurricane 25 could be excellent. I mean, you could always say shoes can be cheaper, can't you? Maybe if they could even reduce it by 20 quid, but I don't see that happening. Prices are only creeping upwards at the moment. I'll give it a 2.6 out of 3 for value. Perhaps too many shoes occupying similar space in the Saucony lineup. PWRRUN PB's good, but it's been around a while and it isn't the selling point that it once was. If I've totaled the scores up correctly, we've got 10.6 out of 12 for the Saucony Hurricane 25. So, great shoe here. I think it falls under the radar a little bit. Shoes like the Endorphin Speed 5 always pick up the hype, but this one could be a really great daily workhorse for you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one down in the comments. quick musical interlude for you. I've got to say, I'm not the biggest Oasis fan. There are certain songs that I really like that the band did, perhaps a little earlier in their career, but some of the recent live performances captured on YouTube made me realise there's actually some great sounds there. There's a video from Heaton Park of the band performing Cigarettes and Alcohol, and Noel's guitar sound is absolutely immense. Did spend some time looking at what he's using there. It does appear he's got a pretty cool custom shop Gibson Les Paul there with some P90 pickups fitted, and they sound absolutely insane. And you have to say that Liam's voice sounds great. It's probably the best he's ever sounded, actually. Whole band just sound really tight, like they've been rehearsing quite heavily, and there's probably good reason for that, doing all these big high-level shows. They know people are going to be recording it, and everything that you see just sounds great. So yeah, I mean, if you've been to see the band and you enjoyed it, I hope it was worth the cash. I hope they do some sort of live album. That would be great. I'd really love to hear some of the tunes from that. They seem to have selected all the best stuff from all of the albums across their whole career. So go and check it out if you can. I'll put a link in the description of this one. Oasis with Cigarettes and Alcohol live at Heaton Park. Thanks for tuning in, people. Hope you enjoyed today's review. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Drop us a comment as well to help that YouTube algorithm. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you